My father, John, didn't do a lot of cooking, but one thing he did cook was fish and chips, and he did it beautifully. It was one of his specialities. I suppose when you say one of his speciality, his speciality. And there's a few secrets. I still to this day make the same batter as he made, and I still follow his recipe for making good old-fashioned thick chips. The first thing, we just get, obviously, a couple of potatoes and peel them, and then we cut them into good chunks. Don't worry about those fancy machines or anything like that. Just, you know, hand cuts best. Just like that. Make sure they're a decent length. I mean, that's the whole secret, isn't it? Not too thick, though, because they then take too long to cook. And then we take those and we just throw them in a bowl. I've just got a bowl there. And we run that under cold water just to get rid of the starch. Now, this is one of the tricks that's very, very important. So you just run it under that until the water runs clear. Just give it a mix every now and then. It doesn't take long. See, that's starting to look good. That water's now fairly clear, which is good. And then we strain it, or drain it, I think is the word with chips, Ian. Drain that very, very well. And the next thing that we do is we dry them. Look, I know this sounds like a lot of work, but, you know, if you're going to cook it properly, you know, do go to this little bit of extra effort. So we dry those fries, just on a clean towel will be fine. Kitchen towel's fine too, but it's easier with a tea towel, but make sure it's obviously spotlessly clean and is not full of detergent. You know, you haven't washed it. Too much detergent, we don't want that. And then once we've dried those, just separate them to make sure that they dry really well. We then put them in our chip basket and we cook them twice. Now, this is one of the other things that's very important, is you first of all cook them at a very low temperature, at about 160 degrees. All right, we just put that into the oil, remembering this is about 160 degrees, and we just cook them, not allowing them to colour. Then we put them on a plate, leave them, allow them to cool, and then we re-cook them at a very hot temperature. Now, that will make them nice and crisp and crunchy. And next we're going to make the batter, which is a very important part of this dish. I've had some wonderful batters over the years, but I must admit in recent times I've had some pretty ordinary ones. I really have. Now, there's a few secrets. First of all, lager for this particular instance, but you can use any beer. But the secret is freshly opened, because that's still got the yeast, which will help, I suppose, with the lightness of the batter, and the second thing, at room temperature. So I'm just going to put a bottle of beer in here, and then half a bottle of cold water, I think I got a bit excited there, so we won't put all of that in. And to that I'll add a little bit of table salt. And whisking all the time, and when I say that I mean it, we will add self-raising flour. Now, you do this little by little, and you don't ever stop whisking. So don't go and answer the phone or anything like that, because this keeps this batter very, very light. So when you've added that flour, just at the last moment you give it a really good whisking. And then we just put that to the side too. Now, the fish itself, look, use any fish you like. I mean, I think my favourites would be snapper. I love snapper. Whiting, flathead is terrific. This is blue eye. It's nice steaky fish. This works well. Groper also works well. But look, I think we all have our favourites. But just cut it into fairly reasonably sized pieces, not too small, but an even thickness. You can do bigger pieces if you like, but I think that's plenty for me. I like that size. But as I said, the equal thickness is important. So we've got a few pieces there. There's a bit of sinew there. I'll just move that off. And what we will now do is add some of these chips into this basket. Actually, what am I using my fingers for? I've got some tongs, lovely greasy fingers. No. No grease because it's been drained really well. Coarse. Now, I think I've worked out how to use this. It's a ripper, isn't it, this machine? Yes, I have. And then I need to push that down, then into there. Looking good. Right. So we'll allow that to cook for a small amount of time, and then what we'll do is add the fish. All right, now the fish, let's just dip this into the batter. You know, you can do this with tongs if you like. I really think it's a hand thing, I must admit. But, you know, if you're a bit reticent, tongs will be fine. And what we do is then put it into the basket. And this is another secret. We hold it until it starts to float. That stops it sticking on the bottom. Now, it doesn't hurt to turn that fish a couple of times, but it's looking good now, so let's just whip that out. Once again, please drain it really, 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 really well. Actually, the Japanese are amazing with batter. They will always serve something like their tempura, which is obviously very light batter. They will always serve that on a piece of white cardboard to show that there is no fat involved. You know, it has been drained really well, and it's also been cooked in very clean oil. So, I just thought I'd tell you that. I don't know whether you're interested. But what that tells you is, look how light that batter is. That is beautiful. That is looking. In fact, you have to be careful with that, otherwise it'll just slide off. Now we throw those chips on there as well. As many or as few as you like. Remembering this is for me, so I will throw the whole lot on. And then just a half a lemon to go with it. Now, of course you could make tart here or something like that. And of course what I'll also do, just stay on that for a second because I'm going to get some salt, me old son. I knew I'd forgotten something. We have to have a little bit of salt on it, don't we? Because there's one thing it needs, is quite a bit of salt. But I don't know whether we needed quite that much, but you know. Just wipe all the salt that I've ended up with on the side. And look, Johnny Hewitson's fish and chips, try that batter. It's a ripper.